this is Jay Power. Me and some friends decided to do a podcast. I hope you guys like it. We're just going to talk about some nerdy stuff, some movies, some games, some shows. Basically, whatever we want to talk about. We reside in Northern Ontario. We like to just sit around and shoot the shit. So we thought it would be a great idea to kind of share it with the world. And we hope you enjoy it too. I'm going to send it around the table so you get a bit of a chance to know everybody. Everyone can introduce themselves, kind of let the audience know what kind of shows they like, maybe movies that they like or whatnot. So I'll send it over to Lipp to my left here.
Hey, this is Lipp. Been living in Northern Ontario for about 9 years now. Met these guys. Always a good time. Always pop culture references and movies I love. Mostly the superhero movies. Guardians of the Galaxy is probably one of the better ones, I think. Love Batman. Batman the Animated Series. Grew up on that. Right now, like current series, it's got to be Game of Thrones, Walking Dead. Shoot over to Kathy now.
Hi, it's Kat here. I've been in Northern Ontario all my life. I enjoy all types of movies, but I'm with Lipp of the whole Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. Those are
Who doesn't
basic.
love them?
Well, exactly. I mean, what can go wrong with dragons?
Well, everything goes wrong in Game of Thrones. And I think that's the great part about it, is that everything... It's like, oh, I like that guy? Oh, too bad, he's dead. Bye. No, Jon Snow, no!
Oh, don't even talk about Jon Snow. That broke my heart.
All right, we could discuss more Game of Thrones, but before we do that, let's introduce Boo to the audience.
Yes, I am Dave. I'm also known as Boo. I'm pretty much all over the place in terms of, media content there. I could actually go for just about anything, whether it be games, movies, books, comics, you name it. I guess there's more in other areas than most, but I have to admit I'm pretty open-minded. I don't know, more of a gamer than anything else if anyone really gets to know me, so.
All right, great. So that's kind of the stuff we're going to be talking about, and we'll kind of try and focus around that kind of stuff. Of course, we'll talk about other things as well. Obviously, everyone just easily wants to talk about Game of Thrones. That's such an easy thing to jump into. So I think the one thing that we could even mention, if you just want to do a quick thing, Jon Snow, dead or not?
Okay, so you don't see him die, but you see him get stabbed a million times.
I might disagree. You do kind of see the look in his face as though he's kind of lost the color in his
Okay, but now, so there is that redheaded sorceress is there.
Mm-hmm. Melisandre, the red woman.
And she likes him.
Well, I don't know if she so much likes him.
She likes what he represents
Exactly.
bloodline-wise, I think, is what she sees where everyone stands in the hierarchy of the noble bloods, I think is what I could say, right?
I don't even know what she sees. He's a bastard, so that's what she likes about him. She sees strength in bastard blood, so I think that's what she was looking to get out of him, but I'm not really sure now. Like, maybe she's changed her mind. Obviously, she doesn't think Stannis is this all-powerful guy that she kind of predicted,
Well, she knew, I should say, that his bloodline represented a very strong bloodline within the noble bloods. So I think what happens, and I think you made a good point with regards to, the bastards. She might have already had knowledge that we don't know of, in terms of knowing that there was a bastard somewhere out there that represented the key bloodline to tying in all of the nobles together to being the true leader of Westeros. So I think that's probably why I'm thinking, going back to the first question, whether or not, Snow is dead. I'm going to say no flat out, but I think we've already discussed that before.
Now, okay, here's the thing. If he's alive, which I think he potentially can be, have you guys heard this fan rumor or fan speculation that Jon Snow is not actually Ned Stark's son?
Okay, well, we're getting on to the Targaryen and him being part Targaryen.
Yes, that's basically what I'm trying to get
right,
at.
and his mother is
Khaleesi's
actually...
brother.
What do they call it on the internet? Is it... what was the names of the characters? I can't remember. That's really bad, actually, that I can't remember. But it's he's part Targaryen, and he's part he's Ned Snow. Jeez, Ned Stark's. They were terrible. People listening to this would be like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Ned Stark's sister is his mother.
Yes.
Right. So he is part Stark, but he's also part Targaryen, and that's the huge rumor that's going on as to why he won't be dead, because who knows, he'd be reborn by fire if they burn the body, or, you know.
That was, I think, our original theory was that he was, well, not only part Targaryen, but he was part, no, that's going to bother me now.
Well, at one time we thought he was part Baratheon, but I don't think that's the case at all now. Now, I think the most popular theory on the internet is that he's part Targaryen, and that he's Ned's sister's son.
Yeah, their sister basically had sex with the
Targaryen.
the Mad King.
Because okay, it's that episode where
The Mad King. Yeah.
right. It's in the last season. They actually kind of gave you a big hint. They had Littlefinger talking to Sansa, and they were in the tombs, and they were talking about Ned's sister, and they're saying how whoever the king was, the Mad King was Targaryen. I can't remember which Targaryen he is, but Rhaegar, I'm thinking, but maybe it wasn't Rhaegar. Said that he raped his sister. And,
Yeah.
Or that's what Sansa says, and then like Littlefinger kind of looks off as into like, okay, that's not really how it went, but I'm not going to tell you, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they kind of drop a huge hint there, and Littlefinger just knows everything. So,
He has his hands in on everything anyway.
all right, maybe we'll carry it on from there. Like Game of Thrones, we could talk about all day for sure.
Okay.
Did anyone else have anything that you would specifically want to talk about today?
Okay, well, I'm just gonna throw it out there. What do you guys feel like most recently? The game you felt like, the biggest accomplishment of beating.
Like a video game?
Yeah, recently.
Beating? I don't even think I beat
That we
games
felt
anymore.
the most accomplishment
Yeah,
from
just-
beating. Oh boy. Well, I know of a few.
Is this
that I
a
haven't
recent
come close.
thing, or is this?
Well, I'm building up to
I
something,
don't
but I'll let you guys tell
even
your
think
stuff.
I've beaten a game recently, to be quite honest.
The only one I know for sure that two to come to mind that I've not even come close to touching. One I can't touch because I just don't have the right system, which I believe you do, would have been Bloodborne.
Oh.
Another would have been the Dark Souls series. That's another that I know for sure. If anyone's actually getting close to attempting such a game, will know damn well that it's just way too easy to underestimate. The game is really freaking brutal, but for good reason.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know. The point I was trying to get at was I beat Batman for regular Nintendo.
Oh,
Jeez, we're talking
like-
old school here.
Yeah, a week and a half ago.
that's
Oh, my
actually
God.
funny because I was actually thinking of older games when you're like when you're talking to me about games I'd beaten.
Oh my
Battletoads.
God! Oh my God! That game. I'll
Okay,
never beat.
have
I'll
you
never
beaten
beat.
Battletoads?
No, you'll never.
Yeah, fucking
Has
right.
anyone beaten Battletoads? That's the ultimate question.
Yeah, now
the only one,
I'm sure there is.
There's
the
gotta
only
be
one
You know,
I
the
can use
first-
Diablo.
First levels beat 'em up, followed by like just levels of muscle memory, and just you have to know levels and jump the right time, and
Like memorizing what to do and when.
yeah,
and
just
all
that's
that.
the whole rest of the game. The first
Was that-
levels beat 'em up.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that not the one that was based on the Tim Burton original Batman movie there with Michael Keaton? Is that not it? Or maybe I'm thinking of a different
Sorry,
one.
sorry.
Well-
I was just talking about Battletoads there.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
Oh,
playing
okay.
Battletoads now. I'm sorry. I thought you were going back
But
to Batman.
I think
No,
that
well,
the
you got-
Batman on the NES was based on that.
Yeah, no, okay. So Batman NES is all beat 'em up, and you get a couple weapons. You get batarangs, you get gun.
Oh, okay, but you're talking about muscle memory being Battletoads again.
Battletoads, God, yeah, I'll never beat that game.
No
Because
one
that
will
game
beat
is all
Battletoads.
it's all so repetitive
When-
that you
and of course, everyone knows that Battletoads has come out recently on the Rare collection for the Xbox One. We haven't really gotten a chance to try that yet, have we? Boo?
no, we
I would
have-
I really like to get back into that. We used to have so much fun playing Battletoads.
Yeah, I have the copy. Do I have it here? I think I do.
Do you remember? Do you remember the? Do you remember the pause music of the original Battletoads?
Yeah, and I had it as a ringtone actually. for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, because we watched that Angry Video Game Nerd, James Rolfe. There is.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was your ringtone on my phone for
Yeah.
the longest time.
Yeah.
Anyways, the audience like, what the fuck are they doing?
We're beatboxing.
Anyways, if
Really
you ever
funny.
hear the pause, what the pause music sounds like on Battletoads for the original Nintendo, you hear it's kind of got like a funky beat to it. We
It
we
sticks
really
in your
like.
head forever.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, so that's a game I've actually I've tried to beat probably a million times.
We're talking about Batman.
Battletoads.
Oh, we're going back up. Okay, sorry.
I thought we're still on Battletoads. You mean back to Battletoads? We're just talking about Battletoads. Time out.
You were talking
Fuck it. Let's make a game with both Battletoads
Beat
and Batman and fucking.
Games that start with B.
No, if you want to go back to Batman, I've tried to beat Batman. Oh god, good dozen times, but I put probably a solid 20, 30 hours into it by the time I beat it.
I haven't.
It's
really...
just the Joker's just so hard at the end, and there's I've actually even tried it with Game Genie. It doesn't even help you beat the Joker.
No.
It's like here, just have 1,000,000 lives, which doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, I forgot.
You know, have 1,000,000
You think you can do it
batarang
or you
power. Yeah. You basically need to just.
So harder than Ninja Gaiden, or
Oh, it's up there.
It's up there, yeah.
God, yeah.
Ninja Gaiden is excruciating.
Yeah.
Speaking of remembering where to jump and what enemies, and the stupid part about Ninja Gaiden, everything respawns every time you.
Oh god.
Oh, when you redo it?
You move 2
Well,
millimeters
no,
to the left.
yeah.
Monster's back.
Yeah, you exactly. 2 millimeters to the left. Oh, here he comes again.
Oh, you killed him, but he hit you, knocked you back. He's back again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He knocks you back. Oh, you get back in that section. Here he comes again. Fuck. Bullshit.
A game that demands perfection. Most Nintendo games do.
A lot of them
Nintendo
games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mostly memory, like memorizing.
I was actually gonna say like Super Mario Brothers or something. It's not recent. I didn't do it, but I'll be honest. Like the first Mario Brothers, I beaten all the other Mario Brothers before I even beat the original Mario Brothers. Like I beat like Mario World. I beat Mario 3, Mario 2. And the only one I ever got to the end of was the first Mario, and I had to like go back and make sure I could. I even beat the Lost levels on the All Stars, but I didn't never beat the original Mario. Like I never got there.
The order I beat it in was 2, then 3, then 1. That's how I beat all my regular Nintendo Marios.
That's the order.
2 was the easiest.
The order I said isn't the order I beat him in, but it's just like 1 was the last one that I beat out of them, which is weird because it should have been like the first one.
I have to admit, I kind of felt number 2 was just ridiculously hard for one reason. It had to do with that one enemy that would shoot eggs out of her mouth all the time.
Birdo,
Birdo, thank
That's
you.
the whole concept of that game is jumping on that stupid egg and throwing it back at Birdo.
I could not for the life of me, at least at that age in my life there, I could not for the life of me time it perfectly to land on the goddamn eggs. It was unbelievable
that was one thing I was good at.
everyone would
makes
make
that
it
stupid
look
noise. Wow.
on this idea that you're constantly pulling things out of the ground like was something fairly new. For
And even that had a stupid noise.
It's just a remake of Doki Doki Palace.
Well, that's what it is. It wasn't even. Of course, everyone should know that Lost Levels on All Stars is the original Mario Brothers 2, and then Doki Doki Panic is actually the name of that game. Was released in Japan as Doki Doki Panic, and then they brought it over here as Super Mario Brothers 2.
Because they thought Lost Levels was too difficult for Americans.
Something like that.
Oh, see, that I didn't
It's
know.
extremely difficult.
For shame.
I think it's safe to say that number 3 is usually by far the most popular of
No,
I think of
great.
the series, and there's a lot to pick from there. For
If I had to pick like probably an all-time favorite game, I might have to say Mario Brothers 3 is. I mean, that spans the ages. You know what I mean? As a childhood game, definitely it's the best.
That's up there. That's also the like Turtles Nintendo Arcade up there.
Yeah.
Oh, that 4-person turtle.
And it kind of
Mario
shows too
Kart.
with Mario 3 how they made that one movie there.
There's so many good ones.
Was it Wizard? What was that one movie there with the young boy that actually...
The Wizard, yes.
Was it The Wizard? I think that culminated that entire idea that how Super Mario Brothers 3 was just about to launch, and then the movie kind of made a statement by showcasing it at the very end.
May as well be called the Nintendo movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Right down to the fact that he had
The Power Glove.
The Power Glove, thank you, yeah.
The
One
bad
thing-
kid has the Power Glove. They make fun of that on Angry Video Game Nerd as well. It's like, oh, I love the Power Glove. It's so bad. It's like, you're right. It is bad because you can't do anything with it.
It's just this idea that you would have your controller on your forearm instead of actually holding it with 2 hands. So when you're down to 1 hand actually controlling the pad, I don't quite understand how that's an advantage.
I think the only thing it was good for was like Punch Out.
Oh,
That's about it.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Well, I think it's a given that I think that Power Glove had other intentions of being used for other reasons, but they never really fully utilized it. I think they kind of died out before they even had a chance to put it to good use.
Nintendo loves just pumping out peripherals for
Oh,
every
no
fucking
kidding.
thing. Remember the fucking giant cannon for Super Nintendo? Did you guys
Oh, the Super Scope. Yeah.
What about Virtual Boy?
Oh, that was the worst.
That was a
I
horrible
worked at a
peripheral.
video game store, and we had like a lot of the old stuff, and the Virtual Boy came in. I'm like, yeah, I gotta see what this is like, and like, there's no fucking way you could sit there and crunch your neck over and look into this fucking heavy duty headset, and all you get to do is like look at like a red screen. It's like everything's red. It's like, okay, it's like it was awful. It was just bad. Like, great attempts. I mean, and you can tell Nintendo keeps trying doing different stuff like that. I mean, they obviously evolved onto the Wii U, where they got the gamepad stuff. Now, I think Nintendo's actually, they're going to bring out something else now, right? Like, they're probably going past the Wii U. They're going to go, what is it, the NX or something? I don't know.
Well,
what
they're
it's
bringing
called.
out a new console. That's something
I
to keep
think
up with Xbox One. And
It
PS4.
might be along the lines of that hologram thing that you saw in, like, that Xbox presentation where they had Minecraft playing on the table, and it was like a hologram. I think it might be almost more along those lines.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to go as far as to doing the same thing. I do know for sure there is a new console on the way. That I do know for sure. One thing, actually, it's funny that you guys are bringing up a topic I thought was kind of interesting. virtual reality is kind of coming back, eh? Like they're bringing back goggles, and when
Yeah.
there's talk of so many different companies are bringing their variations of virtual reality back to the market, and I think there's this big question mark it's even been brought up to the Time magazine. Actually, there was a major article that was talked about. They didn't talk about it as though it was like, great to see it come back. It was almost as though they were mocking the idea that they even considered bringing it back, but they don't outright mock it. But the entire article was kind of broken down, and I really should read it just to get a better idea, but they kind of made us assume as though the concept of bringing back virtual reality was just a mistake in the first place, because back then it was very much a commodity, and even to this day, if you were to ask any homeowner, would they legitimately buy virtual reality for their own homes? Chances are probably not. I think the ultimate question is whether or not we would pay the price ticket that they would slap on such said device, because I mean they can't find us, spending $300-400 on a pair of goggles that only one individual is really going to benefit from, whereas most gaming these days, you see it on your television that the entire household can benefit from. So it's kind of funny to watch your friend or your relative sitting next to you with these goggles on and then seeing how they react, but you clearly can't see what they're seeing.
That's why I don't think they're gonna go. You're definitely right. They are trying for the virtual reality thing again, and totally make fun of it, because you're right. It's just not. It's not a good idea. I think the hologram on the table, like the 3D hologram on the table, that's amazing. Everyone can look at that. You're looking at it. It's a fucking marvel just to see. The great thing about it is you don't even have to have a TV to play it. You throw it. It's like, here, I got a flat surface on my table. It's like boom. It's projected onto the table. That's amazing.
Dave, do you know anything about Oculus Rift?
Well, Oculus Rift
that's what that is.
Oculus Rift is basically virtual reality brought to the home scene, I guess. Forget the.
I think I've seen some videos of basically a horror type game with that, where you're in a room and it kind of scares the shit out of you. TV's going on and off, noises, stuff like that.
God, what was the name of that one horror game that I downloaded? I don't think I'd even played with you guys just yet, though. That was that. Man, we were probably really should introduce our homework here before we did this podcast. Sorry for anyone who's starting to think, I know what he's talking about. Here's the name.
Here's the thing. I mean, we don't know what we're going to talk about, right? So it just kind of gets there and we're like, oh, what the fuck's the name of that now?
That's fine. You can still make your notes. But the one thing I will say to this, though, is and you brought up a good comment, actually. I always thought that if I was to pick up an actual virtual reality pair of goggles, because clearly I'm the only one that's going to benefit from this experience, is this idea that if I have no control over what I'm doing, I'd like to be able to have full motion control over where I'm looking. Yeah. And then you get games like Alien Isolation that comes to mind, where it's claustrophobic. You have very, very specific key tasks to do, and they're not overly complicated, but this idea that you're always fully aware of your surroundings is important. And I think that plays a part in this idea that if you have full motion, viewing of your surroundings, you get to react to it on a much more emotional level.
Yeah.
So this idea that you can hear the alien creeping around in the overhead, you can't get to it or you can't really evade it, but you know damn well it's going to show up in front of you at one point or another.
Yeah. Or
behind you never know. But so you're constantly looking around, and I can't imagine what that would look like to someone who's sitting in the same room as you, and then here's Boo looking around frantically, like, is he up there? Is he? And all of a sudden I knock something over, that's exactly, the screaming, and I think that, to me, that's the whole aspect of what virtual reality really should be, is the matter of immersing someone into a game to such a degree that you feel like you're in that environment.
Yeah.
If you're going to give me a game like, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto, perfect example. You know what? I don't really care for stealing a car and driving someone over with it, all in virtual reality. In my opinion, I'd rather have full proper control with the use of a controller and then rely on basic visuals off my television.
So you're saying virtual reality is very limited in the type of games you could play with it?
The application of
I
it
think so.
appropriately.
I think a horror game would be more suited for it.
Because, I mean, why would you want to put yourself into a gaming world other than being that person in that particular situation? If I'm a guy about to steal a car, and then driving down the street and, I don't know, doing the typical things you would do in GTA, I don't feel like it's an absolute necessity to have this.
But I guarantee there's people who want to do that. They want to live their life through a virtual world, like whether it be fantasy or even a more realistic one like GTA.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the question would be whether you want to put yourself in those moments where they're out of the norm moments. Great example, No Man's Sky. This retarded amount of visuals where you're literally breaking orbit and entering orbit into a new planet, and that whole experience from between that point and the end point. I think it's a given that you would love to see it through your own eyes in a very three-dimensional sense. I don't think I'd want to see that so much on a flat screen TV because it wouldn't be just as impressive. But it would.
If you can give me an Avatar type virtual reality, I'd love it.
I was like, give me a holodeck. Like that, I would be interested in.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Or like-
Like when it gets to the point of
You mean
holodeck,
James Cameron's Avatar?
That's
you mean,
right,
kind of
yes,
thing?
yeah.
Oh,
That-
you're thinking
where
of-
you actually
yeah.
control the body of like an alien kind of life kind of thing. You're
Well,
showing
I was
that.
just saying, I'm just thinking of that scenery in that
Well,
movie,
yeah,
how
'cause he's-
beautiful it is. If you can give me
Maybe
that
you
kind
can
of
go
using it as a
visualization-
vehicle. That's
I
kind
guess.
of
Well, yeah, you could also use it as a vehicle.
Well,
In a way.
actually, you know what?
That's what they are. They're using it as a. He's just sleeping in that little chamber. It's almost like
That's an interesting concept.
Well, you're kind of thinking in terms of what I was thinking of which was part of the movie Surrogate with Bruce Willis. I think in this idea that, let's say as the human race would slowly become dependent, very much dependent, which we clearly are, dependent upon technology to live our daily lives with, to the point where our bodies are breaking down. We're not eating enough food or enough nutrients. We're not getting enough sunshine. These kinds of things. So what happens is that if the body's slowly degrading, and you don't want to showcase to the rest of the world, what do? You buy a robot that walks around for you, looking like you at your prime. The best you looked at whatever age. It never ages. It only needs a little bit of maintenance from time to time, and it's like a car. You would park it at home from time to time whenever you just need to take a break. So if you're going to work, you're not going to go to work in your actual body. You're going to go to work in a robot body that gives you the impression like you're in your prime, getting to and from.
Okay.
That's a
So
very
it took it to a whole new level where it's like, is that really necessary or not?
You're hitting the table. Just keep going, keep talking, but you keep hitting the table.
Sorry, I'm French. I talked with my hands.
Tosses his hand. Has to.
Just like, duh, fucking table. Anyway, so Surrogates, yeah. I totally forgot about that movie, that Bruce Willis movie, Surrogates.
But I think it kind of takes a little bit of that Avatar concept that you're talking about, this idea of being in a very fantastical world, instead of it being a very grounded, realistic, environment. But that goes back to my first comment. I still feel like if I were to be given a set of virtual goggles, going back to my original comment, if I wanted to live a life in a modern day time with a lot of very plausible moments that, I might as well see in the real world. Why would I need that? I mean, it to me, that doesn't entice me as much as if I were to take those same set of goggles, shove me on a whole new other planet. That alone would be enough. But obviously, get me to do something is what that is.
Yeah.
But I think that's why horror has a whole new aspect of being able to give you this effect where
I love horrors.
you're in that moment, about to be attacked or about to have to deal with such a set scenario. And clearly you don't want to be there for real, but I mean, it's nice to say that if you're that much more immersed and you're looking around and reacting to such a set environment, you can do so more so with a set of goggles than without. Game like GTA, if I bring it up again, is clearly not going to do that for me because it's all a matter of all the chaos and the stupidity that you do in such a game, or even if we follow the story mode, I don't care about seeing it through the eyes of Michael, Trevor, or
I think at that point you would be your own character though if it's a virtual reality.
well,
thing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that with that said, I think virtual reality has its uses, but I'm just curious to see.
So I can see like a horror game. I can see
Yeah,
like a
I
zombie
can't see a
survival type
whole
game.
console being based on
I
it.
can see a zombie survival type game.
Yeah,
Just
definitely. But I couldn't see a whole console being based on it. Like another virtual
Yeah,
boy.
it's tough,
Give me a
it's tough.
break.
like Skyrim or something beautiful.
That would be
You know what I
amazing.
mean? Like,
Yeah,
Skyrim,
that type
Fallout.
would actually be perfect.
man, if
perfect
That would be the
for
kind
it.
of game you
yeah,
want to
exactly.
play with that.
Exactly.
I forget who was it. I think actually now going back to Oculus Rift, I think they've introduced a set of peripherals that go with the goggles now that allow you to go into things like shooters, where you actually wear gloves.
Okay.
And you hold a set of not pistols, but they were very much controllers, if we call them that, but they're
Yeah.
motion controllers, so they sense your motion. And you don't need to apparently put your fingers, like you don't have to click the trigger, but if you put your finger onto the trigger, it senses your touching of it.
Okay.
You'll see that in the game, so you can actually see where your fingers are in the game itself, other than having to take your goggles off for a brief moment, seeing where your fingers are just to kind of get your bearings again.
Oh well,
And go from
yeah.
there.
At no point should you ever have to take off the goggles.
Well,
you have
that'd
to take
be
off the
awful.
goggles.
That takes
and-
away from the
no.
experience.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with that said, I think they're kind of taking it again to another level. I think that's pretty much needed. But I am curious to see how far they'll go with it.
Well,
I will
think
agree
that
with you.
with
My whole question
technology,
is,
it's
like,
just going to get better and
I don't
better
know
and
how
better.
much
So they
walking
have
and
to
movement
do
will
the
work in it.
beginnings and the failings and whatever to get to a point where everyone's going to actually want it. Because a lot of products takes a lot of time to actually get into popular mode. You know what I mean? Like when
Popular mode.
I don't know.
Become popular. For the
Become
catch
popular.
on, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes
Before
it
they're
just takes
mainstream,
time.
I think is what
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
mean. Say
definitely.
that it's become part of main culture. Well, you're right. It's kind of
It
funny
has
though
to
because
evolve
from a
from
cultural.
something.
Oh, it will.
Oh yeah, God yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of funny that you mentioned it too, because from a cultural standpoint, that's why I brought it up. In that virtual reality came and gone, when we look at virtual reality, I think when one of us would think of virtual or VR, I think of like those big clunky ass stands that you had to walk into. It was almost like walking into a hologram room without the hologram effect. And then realizing all you're doing is being shoved into a black room with a big set of heavy goggles onto your head, and you can only stay put. You can't move. You can't do anything, right? And to walk, well, the game walks for you, so it takes away from the motion effect. So going back to Oculus Rift, they went one step further with giving you a little bit of a treadmill effect, right, where you would actually walk on the same location, on a dome-like pad, and your feet would literally glide in a curved fashion, so it felt like it was a natural motion for your feet and your legs to move around, without, again, having to take your goggles off. So all of it, I think, is playing a good part. But back to my first comment, do you really think it's going to stick? Because I think VR, technologically speaking, will be more advanced. Will it catch on to the point where it will become, once again, mainstream? I don't know. I don't even think it was even considered mainstream back then.
I really definitely think the holograms are the way to go.
Well, you mentioned holograms. See, this is where you got me confused. I've never yet seen a hologram.
Yeah, I've never seen that either.
I think you're mixing it up with... not smart glass, but I think Microsoft had a presentation where you had to wear a set of goggles.
Oh, right.
It would turn that surface area of your tabletop into the surface that the game was.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunately, it's back to VR. You are
you're wearing the goggles, so I was mistaken.
What was happening is that during that presentation, they were saying,
right, I
for
forgot
the sake
about
of the
that.
audience and for the sake of everyone watching it on TV, they were replicating it as though we'd seen it on that tabletop. So yeah,
I forgot she had to wear those glasses, or they had to wear those glasses.
So again, we're not quite there yet.
Okay, so if you have that feature implemented into virtual reality glasses, I think you can now base the system off it. I think
Nintendo does almost have a hologram-like thing happening with the 3DS, though. With
I see you bring it up.
That's not quite out. Yeah,
that's not the same. That's not.
I know it's not the same, but I guarantee you, Nintendo's working on that. They want to get it.
That's actually old technology brought into new technology. You know what that is? That's actually like when you get hologram stickers, it's just multiple planes of how the light reflects off of such a said sticker. When you turn it, the way light and information is read through your eyes.
Guess I'm dumb then.
Well, no, but I find it funny that you bring that up because it's like it gives us the illusion like, oh, look, 3D without glasses. Well, yeah, you're right, it is, but we've already seen it for all these years, whether or not we were acknowledging it or not. Like a holographic sticker, you look at it and you realize, oh, look, if I step to and from...
I promise to do my research next time, people. And then I'll talk about stuff.
But this is one of the reasons why I think that whole aspect of VR, it allows us to see things in a different light. Instead of seeing it on a flat two-dimensional surface, being our televisions or being our 3DSs or our Vitas or, all these things that actually allow us to see said things. But I think the question is whether if we'll get to that point where we're going to see it without, the need of a peripheral. I don't think it's going to be our generation that'll see that.
No, I don't even think we'll accept it. We'll be like, fuck that shit.
Actually, a friend of mine and I had an interesting topic come up where we did kind of collaborated ideas on how we could, in our generation today, come up with a way of seeing a three-dimensional anything, an element, brought into in a two-dimensional sense, but in our 3D realm. I'll give you an example. You're walking down the street and you see an advertising in a window for a television, TV sales store. They're selling a lot of electronics and whatnot. They tend to have a lot of these flashing neon light signs and so on. Well, there's a lot of these major cities now where they actually have a lot of curved, like display screens, I guess, if I keep it simple. Now, if you took it to a whole new level, when you think of a television screen, now it's just multiple layers of glass, and behind that glass is the pixels being registered onto a screen. If you take that sheet of pixeled information and you layer it upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and these screens are transparent. So think of a TV that instead of it being a flat screen just covered with the tempered glass, just to obviously protect it.
You can see 3D into
so this would be a 3D.
So if you could think of literally a projection where it's just pixels showing up on one layer of glass, and then the next layer next to it would have different pixels layered upon it. So you'd have like one layer upon layer upon layer of pixeled information. In a 3D world that we live in, if we look upon this, it looks like a cube-shaped piece of glass, but amongst those layers of glass is all pixels. That's where I could see holograms coming into effect, because it gives, once again, the illusion of a three-dimensional element, but in a two-dimensional sense. But because our eyes are registering it as though it's just layer upon layer of glass, we're seeing what's just being shown as pixels. hence it gives the illusion of something that's there. So you could have this really cool looking neon looking dance girl, but it's just a silhouette. You don't even see the details. You don't.
Well, I'm not leaving home now.
Or the 3D shark.
Well, I mean, so many options, but I think what's really cool is that, I mean, it does limit in terms of what you can do within that realm of the said box, because it's really just a box if you think of it that way. But we were kind of thinking, that'd be pretty cool if you could actually take, this two-dimensional technology, just being, pixels on a flat screen, but give it a three-dimensional approach. Mm-hmm. I can see that being maybe the next step in holograms, or, again, along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Be interesting to see where that goes. I think eventually we will see the hologram. So.
For sure. Oh yeah.
I think our technology will catch up with it, and the technology will be much, much better for things like holograms and 3D and whatever. And I think then it'll catch on. But right now, we're just going through, the beginning stages and the phases, the Betamax, as of the 3D world type thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it's got to go through its steps, and things have to be like, okay, that's not working, and then just work on something different. But unfortunately, we're going to have to see the process until it gets to something very cool. And I think once it gets to the very cool thing, it will become mainstream. But it's going to take a very long time to get there, I think.
Oh, clearly. Yeah, we're nowhere near that kind of technology. I mean, we've all been wanting to have our own little holodecks since we've seen them on Star Trek. And unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing that anytime soon. But
we can prefer transporter beam. I think that would be very, very much more.
Yeah, as long as your body's not scrambled when you get to the other side. If there's like a malfunction of some kind.
To be quite honest, I might have gone the opposite. I would have said no. I'd rather the holodeck first before the transporter. The transporter would be great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
the stupidity of that is kind of like what Jay had said.
It's too hard.
The stupidity of breaking down your atoms and then rematerializing them in a different area.
Then you get the question like, okay, if you get is it still you? Do you get destroyed and then you're rebuilt? Is it still you? Well, you're destroyed and rebuilt.
It's still you, like no matter
really.
what. Like, your conscious follows you. I mean, it's not as if that your conscious is gone.
We're talking in a physical sense, but in a spiritual sense, if we can go as far as to saying that, we don't quite know, right? Because this is just science fiction at its best. It's showing us visually what could have been, or what could be, I should say. Where in reality we know quite damn well that science fiction and real fiction just don't mix. I mean, there's a reason why.
Sometimes it's close.
We've come close, but I mean, the day when we see a hologram, the day when I walk into a building and I see lights, physically coming to being in front of me and then showing me an actual figure of sorts.
Well, technically, we're all just atoms.
Are real.
Anyway,
It's talking like they're not real. They are real.
Like we're just atoms right now anyway.
Yeah,
thrown together, and then we see and feel whatever. But we're just a bunch of atoms put together. So really, just taking it apart and building it again somewhere else.
They're just not mainstream.
Everything that makes you use is still there.
Yeah, no, true.
They're real.
They definitely have
like Wookiees.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely have
spirituality and your brain versus soul type thing. And that's where that would come into play. Like, would your soul disappear and die? If you transported it, or does your brain come back? I'm just saying, for examples, like of things that will you still be you? It's like, well, that would depend. Does you come from your brain, or does you come from the so-called soul that everyone, well, not everyone thinks, but that people think that's where your personality and emotion comes from. So it would really depend on what the reality of that is to make transporter.
When you're transporting, it's usually breaking it down and rebuilding it on the other side.
Yeah, and that's what we are anyway. We're just a bunch of atoms stuck together. Really, I mean, that's it.
I like to think that. I mean,
would that change your consciousness?
Yeah, well,
that's part of
this is what is conscious.
This is why a topic this could branch off into so many different discussions later. But I think the only thing I can add to that, just before it gets really far fetched here,
bring it back to reality. Bring it back to ground.
Just a little bit. I think it's safe to say that I think there's a lot of things that have been proven from a scientific standpoint, and one of them being that we've never really tapped into the full potential of the human brain. Having said that, I still think to this day that us as being, husks with a soul. And so to speak, we're just a placeholder for our true beings, to walk around in a three-dimensional existence. No one's quite disproved or proved, I should say, of a fourth dimension. And I love that topic a lot because that's been a topic of discussion in so many different ways, whether it be time travel or the spiritual realm or, purgatory, as I've been hearing it every now and then. It's just this idea that it's a plane of existence that we cannot see or perceive. But having said that, there's certain parts of our brain, I think, that allow us to have our souls manifested the way we interact with each other in this three-dimensional, existence. So I think having said that, I can see that being from a biological standpoint, breaking down the body, from down to its atom, and rematerializing it through the form of a transporter. If we were to answer that question, would the soul follow, and would you still be the same person? I think from a biological standpoint, if our soul was based upon the electrical signals in our brain, whether or not we're able to, to tap into that part of the brain, it's still happening. Meaning as such, if we were to rematerialize, your brain goes with you, right? So I think it's safe to say everything that was in that brain would follow. I think that's the only thing I can say to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, clearly there's no way to prove that.
No.
Let's say you just be a clone of yourself or something. You wouldn't even know the difference.
Yeah, and you know what? That kind of reminds me of the movie Prestige?
The Prestige, where he teleports himself and he kills himself every time. Yeah,
he's just replicating himself.
Yeah,
but he kills himself
but he kills
every time
he does
it.
it.
So technically speaking, it's not the original that was rematerializing.
Right. Yeah.
It was a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and got to the point. And then there's another question.
Thank you, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to remind everyone this part of the show is sponsored by Kathy's Random Thoughts. Random Thoughts by Kathy.
And by Kath, yes. And that happens often.
It will happen often. Do you have a random thought for us this week?
Everything's a cloud.
Perfect. That's the perfect one for the first episode.
Wow, everything's a cloud.
Everything's a cloud. Think about that for a second before we carry on.
You could see anything and everything, so technically everything's a cloud.
Everything's a cloud.
Deep.
Except that with anything with straight angles.
It's just a very square cloud.
Once
It's
again,
not fluffy.
this episode was brought to you by Random Thoughts by Kathy Ramsey.
All right, new topic?
Yes, Kathy, you got something for us?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. It's like, speaking of the surreal and whatever, there's a lot of talk about people going to Mars to recolonize it, or to colonize it when, the Earth decides to, say no, get the heck off of me now.
Is this a
I'm
what-if
done.
question?
If you were offered a chance to actually go to Mars, would you go?
No.
Wow, for how long? What do you mean?
Well, you're going
am I
to
giving-
live
am I
there.
getting money?
You're going, that's it. You're not coming back.
You're the next Adam, you're the next Eve.
You're going to be on the Mars
you're the
reality
new-
show when it comes out in 2020.
Yeah, you're the new colony, per se, of Mars, and you're trying to save the humans.
What?
Like,
What?
you're
Where's this
basically,
going now?
I'm just saying,
Are you
they're
saying
trying to think,
apocalypse? Or no?
if they happen to need a whole bunch of people just to get off Earth and colonize Mars to see if it's at all possible, because something devastating is about to happen to Earth. Because they're talking about doing that. They're trying to send people up there. It's already started.
Well,
so
now this gives me a
would you
bunch
go?
of I gotta ask a lot of questions then.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Okay,
exactly,
what's
that's
happening to
perfect.
the Earth? Why do we gotta leave?
Well, I honestly think that the Earth is going to get sick of us one day and just kick us off. For lack of a
So you're
better
saying
term,
the
like
world's
a
dying
thing.
anyway, so we don't really have a choice but to go.
There's been many extinctions over the years, and I think that the difference between us and the other, we have an actual conscience and we want to continue living. So I'm just thinking that's probably going to be another natural occurrence, where the Earth decides, no, I'm not taking this anymore, it's time to refresh. So humanity is actually about to die. And you were chosen to test Mars to see if it's habitable.
Are you trying to say that the Earth has a conscious decision to make to get rid of
I'm just
whatever
using that
virus?
just to explain, basically another event that will cause Earth's extinction.
I think it's safe to say that I know that the
Do
Earth
you want
is
to
going
travel to
stages.
Mars?
Yeah.
Hey?
Well, yeah, in the end, do I travel to Mars? No. I think flat out, it's just safe to say that I would want to be the first to colonize the planet. If I was to be asked what I would like to move to Mars once it's already been colonized, you know what? I would have to wait until to see what was going on at the time, I guess.
Oh god, I would
you know what?
absolutely go.
I seriously think that the human race has the capabilities of colonizing such a said planet, especially since there's no life there to be had as of right this minute.
That we don't want.
Yeah, until we've properly, established ourselves on the planet ourselves. I'm not talking about our probes, and I'm not talking about everything else that we throw at the planet just to look at it from a distance. But I think,
Well, I'm not gonna volunteer to go to Mars, but
I
if
would
the world's
definitely.
dying and I don't have a choice, then I guess I'm going.
But think about the opportunity. You are going to be the first humans to live on Mars. You are going to go down in history.
Yeah, but what if you
books
go there and you don't
forever.
like it?
I think the question
What
would
does it
be,
matter?
Like, if you
Think
learn
of the
to die.
opportunity. Think of what you.
What does it
you're,
matter? You
you're
spend the rest
going-
of your life there.
What life here? here. Like, is that any better? I mean, seriously. Like,
There's a lot of great things here on Earth that are probably
sure
not
there
on
are, but
Mars.
I mean, your life is so very short that I mean, like, wouldn't it like
Oxygen.
it would be one way to live
Oxygen?
forever because your name
I
would
like
go down in
oxygen.
history forever.
Water,
And
you
you'd
know,
be the
water's
first
great.
person, you know, you'd be the person deciding like what works, what doesn't work. You know what I mean? You're like a pilot project that just. I don't know. I just think that the
What happens if
prestige,
you're like
the
the
prestige in
Mars
the,
station
I think-
janitorial stuff?
But Dan, don't forget, with every pilot, if we use the term pilot, there's not always a term of success in the end, right?
Exactly, but
You can't disregard that because that pilot not succeeding, you know what that means? Your life comes to an end.
Yeah.
So I
think
I know what
maybe
you're
it's
saying.
easier for me because I know like I'm probably gonna
Okay.
be single forever, not have any kids, so I have no one else to worry about, right? So I would go and not feel bad about
I think
going. You know what I mean?
You're
I
asking a
think
different set of questions, though, depending on who you're asking it to. I think.
Well,
you're
we
asking
know if
would
the
you-
ship
I'm
is
just saying
leaving
for
for
my-
Mars
like-
tomorrow,
No,
Kathy's
I'm-
leaving.
exactly. I would definitely go. I would be on the first ship to Mars
If you're
tomorrow.
asked-
No, I'll sit here and die with the planet.
Nah.
I think it's safe to say we got too many luxuries or too many commodities here on the planet that we depend on. Two of which he made a good comment: oxygen and water. I'm sorry to say, but I mean, you can't survive without it. The human race.
Well,
is
yeah, but
dependent on it,
I'm sure we would be prepared.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
you have to bring that with you. So now it's a natural resource that is not even available.
Also,
on
they
that
don't
planet
have
we know of.
Xbox on Mars.
Okay, forget it. I'm not going.
Yeah, because
They also don't.
that's
So you
such
just
a
have to bring
priority.
yours.
Well, they don't have sexy women either.
You know, maybe somebody else had decided to go.
Unless
with
we
you.
discover sexy Martians, I don't know.
That's right. I'll just bring Pamela Anderson with me. I think it's simply said, though. I think if someone were to legitimately ask, you know, like tomorrow, would I take a shuttle to Mars? Would I be one of the first who would want to colonize the planet and make a historical statement? No, not really. I don't
Okay.
care about putting my name in history. I really don't.
Why not?
I don't have those level of aspirations.
That's where I'm at. Like, why the hell not? You know?
yeah, but
It's-
that's
what
the
an
thing.
adventure!
If
I
you're
mean,
given the choice.
seriously.
but
I think
if
it's just my imagination and my adventure mind that, you know, it's like, I want to, you know, do things and experience things. And I think no one else has experienced it. And I think that would be cool. You know?
I'm not disagreeing not disregarding the fact that.
Oh,
it would
it'd definitely be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
If
But
I
that's
can
the thing.
astral project myself to go there, look at it, be like, and then come back, then sure.
Yeah, 'cause
You know?
then you have the safety of knowing that you'd be coming back to a safe environment, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you go to Mars, even just taking a step on the goddamn planet, I swear, is pretty hostile when you think of it. All it takes is for you to take the wrong step off the lander, and then you crack your helmet right on the goddamn first rock.
That would be me!
The first
That
fucking
would be
rock.
me.
First step on Mars.
Yeah.
First step.
Yeah.
That's what it's recorded as.
One small step for.
Yeah, and then there goes your last visit ever
Yeah.
to anywhere. It's like, you know what? Yeah, that was great. That was exciting for a
One
brief moment.
stall step for me, one stall step for.
I'm sorry, Kathy, we didn't quite get that. Could you say
My
that?
brain is oozing out of my helmet.
My eyeballs are bleeding!
I don't have enough oxygen.
No, I would definitely.
I guess to answer that question,
3 out of
Me,
4 people
yeah.
would not go to Mars.
and one would die on Mars.
Yeah, one would crack their head as soon as they stepped out of the land.
Oh, with my luck. Well, I actually should reconsider knowing my luck. Going to Mars probably wouldn't be the greatest idea for myself, but I would want to go. I think
Well,
I
it's
would
gonna
go.
take you like how long does it take to travel there?
30 years.
I don't even
don't know how many
remember.
years.
I don't
Oh,
think
no,
it's 30
no.
years.
I think
It's
it's 7 light years or something.
it's
like that.
long enough, anyways.
It's enough to say that it's more than a year. That's all I can say. But I mean,
No, it's more, yeah, definitely more than that.
Definitely
I can't remember the. I actually read
I
it.
want to say it's
I
like
can't remember.
18 years or something to get there.
I almost wanted to say 20 years, but you know,
Okay.
See, I thought it was.
it's
less than
probably
10.
not 20. It's probably more like 7 or
5
something like
minutes.
that.
Again, we apologize for not doing our homework, guys.
Well, we didn't know we were gonna talk about Mars.
No, they're just random comments.
Kathy did. She should have did her homework.
Well, you know.
Mars
I
travel.
just bring the ideas, man.
Oh, jeez.
All right.
Alright, okay, well here's another thing. If you could only say 4 words to your 8-year-old self, what would they be?
Boy,
Oh.
Kick the bucket.
invent the time machine.
Oh, jeez. Would that really accomplish anything? That would
Well,
just
I would
panicking
assume
for the
if
rest of
I'm
your life.
going
Okay.
back to talk to myself, then I've already invented the time machine, right? So I'm gonna have to tell myself to make the time machine, so that way I can come back to tell him to make the time machine, so that way, you know.
You do it so that it's this never-ending cycle of you. Really
Well,
going
right,
back in
because
time
if
to
I
tell
don't
yourself.
do that, then I don't make the time machine.
So you make the time machine because you told you. What if you actually didn't make the time machine, never did come back to tell yourself?
But then I wouldn't be telling myself to do it to
Exactly.
begin with.
Exactly.
Well, the question is, what would you tell yourself? So if I had
You only had time to say 4 words. And I think mine would be like, people think you're awesome. Because I had my biggest problem when I was a kid that I thought people hated me. But, or I thought people thought I was just too strange and whatever. But if I knew that people actually liked who I was, my life would have been a lot easier. But those would be the 4 words that I would say to myself.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone should just tell themselves that each day.
People think you're awesome.
People think
I'm good
you're
enough.
awesome.
I'm smart enough. And damn
There should
it,
be like a
people
little
like me.
post-it note, like right beside your bed. As soon as you wake up, you look at that every night.
Yeah.
I think I would try to figure out a way to cram into those 4 words whatever would make me, ridiculously rich down the road.
So I was thinking, invest in gold young.
But yeah,
Invest in what?
Gold young.
Right?
Right? Gold's like an all-time high. Like
Yeah.
just
invest in gold now.
Gold always goes up in value and then drops later on when everyone's...
Okay, I got a second one. Buy stock in Google.
Yes.
there you go. Or buy stock in Apple.
Yeah.
Or
They only
just
went
like
bankrupt
Google,
several
Apple,
times, so just
invest,
really just hold on
invest.
to it.
That's actually really smart. I never considered financial gain for it, but
I would say like invest in Apple 2001, right? Like right before the iPhone, or 2000, right before the iPhone came out. Boom.
What happens if you say more than 4 words? You blow up?
no, you only have time for 4.
Okay, you only got time for 4.
Invest in Google, says the Google one. Invest in Google. Some guys going, what the fuck's a Google?
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be
Oh, I
like,
wish I could somehow search that.
yeah, you're like,
Wish I could
that's
search-
hilarious. I wish I could search somewhere to find out what Google is. You're like in the library trying to fucking find out what Google is. What the fuck is Google? Until one day someone comes up to you. It's like, oh, you ever try Google? Like, what did you just say to me? Google. No. Say it again. Google? Who are you?
That's about that one. Yeah, mine would be like definitely like Dave said, like just something based on financial gain in the future.
Brilliant.
Because that actually kind of plays a part with what you were trying to say, just to kind of make yourself feel better. Well, I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to make myself feel better and make my life actually better.
You will be wealthy.
Okay, I think I've got time for 1 or 2 more topics.
Yeah, we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was actually also thinking, you know how back in the day, before TV and everything else, they had radio broadcasts for, for shows and books and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, like, with the, and I was thinking that with the popularity of podcasts and people just listening to people speaking, that I was wondering if maybe these shows, like, for example, like The Inner Sanctum or whatever, would come back to podcast versus radio. Because, like, I'm sure it wouldn't go back to the radio, but having this original stories read, like if someone wrote a story and read it on the internet, if that would actually pick
When
up. and
people
be a
listen
thing.
to it like
When
they
people
listen to
it.
podcasts.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, my mom just bought Game of Thrones audiobooks.
Yeah, I know.
That's
audio
true. People listen to
audio
audiobooks all the
are still a
time.
thing.
Yeah.
And you know what I think that is? That has more to do with the fact that our lifestyles don't seem to allow time to read books as we really should, or we don't take the time. So I think that, with that said, I think people are listening to audiobooks more and more and more often.
Yeah, and I'm not just
Having
talking
someone
audiobooks,
read
but
it to you.
But here's
like
the thing,
short
I
stories that
don't-
you write yourself.
Obviously,
You
no
know what I
one
mean?
does the plays and acts them all out on the radio anymore. I don't know if that would. I don't know if people would listen. That's a very good question. But I think you almost like Dave's Lipp said that there has to be like people listen to audiobooks. So like it would almost have to be like a book first or something, and then you do that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, I see what you're saying too. I think it would be a certain art style
I
that would not
personally
come
miss
back.
it.
But
Yeah, I mean, I loved listening to like. when
Well,
we
maybe
had
there
them
is
on
other
cassette
people
back
who
in the day, 'cause
listen
I was
to
still, I'm still not young, old enough to be there when it was popular. But my dad was, and I think that's where I picked it up. Because he had found cassettes of the old radio shows that he used to listen to when he was young, and I would listen to them, and I thought they were fascinating. And just like, because all you had was your imagination. It was like reading a book, like a book, but I mean, you have the different voices and the the
They
sound
make
effects,
noises, yeah.
exactly, and it made it really interesting for me, and I just loved listening to them, But I'm a sucker for voices myself. But anyway, that's a whole other.
Well, I'll tell you
topic for
what.
discussion.
If we keep doing the podcast thing, you write a script
And we'll
If
test
it's
the
good
theory.
enough, we'll try it. We'll see.
And then people will comment.
And
They
then
can find
people-
out.
Then
I could
people can
probably
tell us
do
if we
that.
suck or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we ever
Like,
get an
what-
audience,
Yeah.
one
Would
day.
you think a script
there's
would be
even a
better
person
than a story more like would a script work better than a book rather than like
Well, you're talking about two different things. We're talking about like a play rehearsal, I think is what you were talking about, but in the form of a radio.
Well, that's what she is
That's what,
talking about.
yeah. No. That said, compared to someone just talking about a book, or not talking about it, sorry, reading the
Reading
book
it.
to you. Hence,
But they
Audiobooks,
kind
thank
of
you.
act it out too, you know. Like,
they do, but only when the dialogue parts
No,
are
I
in
know.
with
effect.
sound
right?
effects and
I think the
everything
question
There's
still
no sound effects.
would be whether or not you're asking me whether or not I guess culturally would they would come back. I don't think so.
You don't
I
think
don't.
so?
I think right now
Sad.
we're too dependent on everything that's visual right now that I don't think see us going back to it.
except for podcasts.
podcasts. I think that's more to do with budget than anything else. Thanks.
Yeah, but people listen to podcasts. I don't know. I think she has there could be something there.
Well, I don't know. I could be wrong.
I don't know who would put in the time. Like, I don't know who would put in the time to do that anymore because, you know what I mean.
I think that's just another form of play, is really all it is, and I don't know if I'd see myself or anyone that I know in my lifetime would go as far as to listening.
Like
to
for
it.
something like that, you'd have to have the sound effects and you'd have to have the music.
Yeah, and people who could do voices
We
properly.
could make sound
and-
effects. We can't do. I could do voices.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, no, I'm just saying, like, we have the talent. Like, I'm just, like, I was thinking about it because I know that amongst all of us, we have the talent to put something together that would be great. I think if we were to put the time in, like, of course, you would need the script first before anything else would start or whatever. But I think, you know, between all of our personalities would be perfect for something like that. Like, there's
It
voices.
would
and-
depend on the story.
Yeah.
Murder mysteries.
Yes, well, like
That's what a
remind
lot
me-
of them were,
remind
right?
Me, like, remind me to actually try to. I'm gonna try to find the intersanctum, and that one's my favorite. I always run to that one.
Well, what
I'm
was-
gonna have to find it again.
What was the one that made a real big stink? Not stink, I guess I should say. It just made a big hit on the market where they retold the story. I think was not Space Odyssey. The one where aliens came to Earth.
Oh, you're talking about War of the Worlds.
No, it wasn't War of the Worlds. There was one particular story similar to that, but anyway, everyone would listen in on the radio like they all were, and people were literally thinking the world was coming to an end. Like
That's War of the Worlds.
really was it? Okay.
And it's
Yeah.
not. It wasn't a regular show. It was just a one-time thing that they did, and everyone thought it was a real broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a story, but it sounded so real.
Yeah,
that-
they did it so well that people thought it was real.
Hence
And
the
because
reason
people
why.
were gullible as all fuck back then.
Well, Christ, we do the same thing when we see videos showing up on YouTube, for crying out loud. I mean, it's not much of a difference there.
yeah.
We figured once it shows up on YouTube and we're not able to prove or disprove that it is what it is, we just take it for what it is. It's just, fact. I think that we do that.
I don't know. I'm pretty skeptical.
No, I don't take anything as fact. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting, and then
I really like
if it's real or not
sources
is
on
the other
everything.
thing.
Where's your source?
Yeah,
Too many
exactly.
sources.
Just
Yeah.
look it up. It doesn't take much. Just look it up on the internet.
Let's look at-
Wikipedia.
There's still a lot of people who are pretty gullible, though. I mean, if you compare to the general
Of course
public.
there
People
is.
will believe anything, quite
How
honestly.
do you think scam artists are still in business?
Mm-hmm.
People will fucking fall for that shit. What's like some underrated movies from the 80s?
Oh,
God.
I don't know if this is 80s. I just recently watched it. My Dinner with Andre.
Oh, you did watch that.
I did. Actually, I really, really enjoyed it. It's got a couple actors. I'm trying to think. Main guy from, well, not the main guy. One of the guys from Princess Bride, like the little
Carry
short
on.
bald guy.
Oh, Vicine?
Inconceivable!
Yeah.
Vicine, like the guy that plays Vicine.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's a great movie.
I don't think that means what you think it means.
Hello.
Anyways, quickly
Another-
before she starts quoting.
Yeah, so basically, I just watched My Dinner with Andre. It was very good. I had to watch it because
So
I
it's-
watch Community so much.
Right,
And
exactly.
I watched My Dinner with Andre.
And I've been
Or
actually
My Dinner with
interested in it
Andre.
since that episode of Community as well.
Yeah. Well, I'd always want to watch it after that episode of Community, and then I was on Reddit and I read Today I Learned where they were talking to either Eper or Roper. Anyhow, they asked them just basically one movie they can think
It'd
of.
be
that-
Roper because
Roper.
Ebert's not alive anymore.
Okay, there you go. So that's Roper. Like, what's one movie that has no cliches in it? And that's what he said.
Really?
My Dinner with Andre. I was like, oh,
So it all takes place in that restaurant though, eh?
yeah.
Bottleneck episode.
What?
I'm not familiar.
Bottleneck episode.
You're a bottleneck episode. It's a
It's a
bottle
bottle
episode.
Oh, is that
There's
what
no
it's called?
bottleneck in there. There's no neck involved.
I always thought it was a bottle ass.
Yeah, okay, bottleneck
Okay, well, we all know that I screw up words. I make up words. That's just me. Let's move on.
So yeah, that's a. I don't know if that's
No.
an '80s movie.
Okay,
Is
well, I don't know what it is.
But that's-
Why are you asking me? I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, shit. Anyhow, My Dinner with Andre. That's my awesome '80s movie. I had no
My
expectations.
awesome could be 80s, could not be 80s movie.
I don't know. Went in expecting nothing was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty good. It's just conversation. That's all it is. Actually,
Yeah.
it reminds me a bit of a podcast. It's just conversation. Good conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
North Shore, I think that was really, like, a lot of people don't remember, like, it's actually playing on the movie stations now.
What is it?
But for the
What's the
longest
name of
time,
it?
like, North Shore.
North Shore.
It's a surfing movie, but
Oh, okay.
um
Surf's Up is based off it, you told me.
yeah, and
With the
so-
penguins.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just there's a lot to it. It's really deep. It's entertaining, and a lot of people didn't like. Every time I mentioned it, they're like, "North what?" But
Yeah.
it was something that I watched over and over and over again, and I really enjoyed it. But it's playing on the movie station now. I'm really excited. But yeah,
Okay.
that's one.
Dave, you watched any '80s movies recently?
It's been a while since I've watched one. I have a lot of them in mind, but I think a lot of them are already well known, so they're not exactly underrated.
The Princess Bride, Breakfast Club.
You know what? Actually,
Oh.
I thought of one that just actually I realized. Maybe I should bring it up since it's fresh in my mind. They apparently are making a remake of Point Break.
Never
What?
saw it.
No,
It's
that's
another
the one
surfing
with.
movie with-
Yeah, that's why when you mentioned surfing, I'm like,
Whoa!
oh, that's kind of interesting. But
With-
that was the one with Patrick
Reeves.
Swayze,
Is it?
Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves. It was at a time when Patrick Swayze was at his prime, obviously, but I mean, it was the fact that he played, I guess you could say, almost like I can't say an evil role. He was just a guy who was just trying to earn an extra buck by doing things that were not to hurt anyone, but were to scare them to give him what he wanted. In this case, was to rob banks and a bunch of other things. So they would literally rob banks at point blank. Whereas I think the Point Break, as they would refer to it in the movie, was about the surfing aspect
Yeah.
of their roles, because they were surfers by night and bank robbers by day kind of thing.
Okay.
But anyway, the new movie apparently is supposed to be pretty good. But it's taking it to a whole new extreme now, where it's this idea that they're actually doing skydiving and base jumping and bungee jumping, or no, not bungee jumping. Anyway, these guys
Dinosaur riding and no, wait, maybe not that last one.
if anything, it was knowing that they were doing much more extreme measures to getting, I guess, whatever they stole.
People hunting.
The world's most dangerous game.
Leprechaun wrestling. But yeah, no, I thought that was pretty cool because I remember Point Break being a movie that I was aware of, never quite went out of my way to watch, and then I just realized recently that there was a trailer for an upcoming remake of it, so I thought that was pretty interesting.
Nice.
Interesting.
I don't know if I have any like underrated ones. It's hard to say. I mean, there's that cartoon Fire and Ice, really. Not too crazy of a thing. It's an old fantasy movie. I don't even know if that's 80s. That could be like 79 or
It's
something.
like heavy metal.
Yeah, it's like heavy metal almost. And I hate to say, I don't recommend it for everyone, but it's like, it's kind of, I don't know. It's awesome, but in my opinion, just because I'm an artist and I like to draw it, was like something that like not many people knew about. I was like, oh, this is a sweet cartoon. You got to see this because it was like violent and dark and. The girls were scantily clad. There was like lots of monsters and sorcery and shit. So I just ate that shit up.
I could be wrong on this, but I think that was it not possible that the artist who did Fire and Ice was also responsible for the original Lord of the Rings cartoon movie?
No, I would say no.
No.
Are
Okay.
you sure? That actually sounds familiar, but I don't know.
No,
I
it's
thought
not.
like
It's not. The art style is not the same. Like I find the art style in Fire Ice is actually quite a bit more. The guy, he's a fantasy artist, I believe. The guy who did it. To be honest, he's a fan like this. What's that guy's name? Vallejo is one of an artist I like. That's like a fantasy artist. You don't even know. There's many others, but he's kind of more like in that style, I guess.
That's a title I haven't heard in a long time. Is Fire
Well, I
and
think
Ice.
I showed it to you guys one
Yeah,
time.
I think the only time I've ever seen
It's
it was
actually
I know you showed
on
that to me.
YouTube, actually. But still might be on YouTube. You could probably watch it for free.
Yeah.
But you know what? I never... So that's like probably like an underrated one. It's kind of weird. There's like some movies from the 80s that like... There's just some movies that I should have seen and I haven't. And like even some where I've like seen parts of, and I'm like, I really gotta like I've never seen like from beginning to end. And so like even recently, I really from beginning to end I've seen The Fugitive and First Blood, which are two movies that I should have like seen a long time ago, and I'm glad I finally got them off my list.
I think Fugitive's the 90s though. The Fugitive's 90s.
Yeah, that was a 90s movie. I don't think it was an 80s
Okay.
movie. But you know what? It still falls into that category of movies I think that we always knew of when we grew up, and then never got around to watching. I think that's to me that's what 80s movies was.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, so I mean both great. Like even First Blood, like the first Rambo. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen like the first, and it wasn't until recently I watched it on Netflix. And
Like you're talking like beginning to end kind of thing here, because I don't.
yeah, I'm talking from beginning to end. Yeah,
because I've never watched any of those Rambo movies.
No.
Beginning.
First Blood is really good. Like I don't even think I've seen really too many other Rambo movies. I've seen bits and parts for sure,
The
but
only one I remember seeing fully was one of the newer ones, right? If not the last one.
John Rambo or just Rambo,
Just
whatever
Rambo,
they
I think
called
is
it.
what
I
they
think
called it.
yeah, because the first one's not called Rambo; it's called First Blood. So
Yeah.
and even the second one's called Rambo First Blood 2, I think. Yeah, so it's like, and then it's like Rambo 3, so it gets like confusing, you know?
Rambo 3, not so First Blood.
But not any less confusing than Fast and the Furious and The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, I don't even get me started. God.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Too Fast, Too Furious. Jesus.
The only one that made no sense.
The only, they all don't make sense.
Well, at least the second one, it was like a standalone story. It had nothing to do with the other movies.
The first one was okay, I guess, but I'm not too crazy about those.
Little Tokyo Drift.
People hate that one, apparently. I have no clue. I'm just going to take their word for it. But like, you know, I have to watch that. No, I won't.
No, that one I really didn't like, but what was ironic is that it at least somewhat did a mention of tying it in with the original series when Vin Diesel shows up at the very end. But that was the only tie-in to the entire goddamn franchise. Sorry, with the exception of that, the one Chinese character.
I think it took place in Japan.
Or is it Japan? I'm sorry. Whoops. Whoops. But I think... Wrong race. But I think that was the only two characters that tied it in, really.
Yeah.
One of which you only saw briefly at the very end, just before the credits.
Oh, okay. So what do you think? An hour or do more?
Well, it's about 6 o'clock now. I think we went through quite a few topics today.
Yeah, we did.
It was pretty good. So, like, you know, we talked movies, we talked video games, we talked Game
Just
of Thrones.
stuff.
Like, just, you know,
Just random stuff.
TVs, movies,
We had a
video
random
games,
thought by Kathy.
Random thoughts. Like, that was a good first podcast, I say.
I would say.
I would say that was really good. As for naming this thing, here's my idea. I finally figured it out as we were going through this, and it's gonna suit. We Promise Nothing.
No,
The show. We Promise Nothing. The show.
Oh, that is absolutely.
I like that.
Why? Because we came here, we talked about shit, we started talking, we realized we didn't know what the fuck we were talking about. We promised nothing.
We're not researching anything.
Well, maybe we'll do more research. But guess what? We might research next time, but we promise nothing. That's right. All right, so this is this signing out here, J-Par.
Lip.
Cat.
And boo.
All right, everyone, have a good day. I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe, listen to more. We will be doing this weekly. We hope to do a lot more. We hope to hear your feedback. Thank you very much. Have a great day.